Please go ahead.
My name is Rene. I'm a student, a PhD student under Professor Altmann lab in Seoul National University. And my major is technology management, economics, and policy. And my paper is about AI technologies and motives of AI adoptions by countries and firms. It's a systematic literature review. Can you see my screen, everyone? Hello, excuse me. Hello?
Yeah, you can.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Everything is okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me as well?
Good.
Okay.
That's fine.
So as we know, firms and countries and even some individuals, they are economically impacted by the technological change. And we know that the decision to adopt a certain technology in this can be crucial to some businesses, to some success, can be crucial to the success of firms, of countries, or some even individuals. So we also know that AI is considered as one of the most time-changing technologies in this era of fourth industrial revolution. We have seen a lot of countries racing, fighting to adopt AI technologies. We also, for example, from 2020, an AI Chinese industry was able to generate around 58 billion US dollar. We also have a lot of firms that are adjusting their businesses strategies by adopting AI. There is one report by McKinsey Global Institute that was released in 2018. It says that more than 70% of firms will have to adopt AI in their businesses by the year 2030. The main objective of this study with the professor was to investigate mostly the economic impact of AI adoption by identifying some industries that were impacted by AI adoption, looking at the motivation on why they have to adopt that technology, and to also look at the most AI technologies that are used. So we had to ask ourselves, we have 3 research questions. One was the most AI technologies that are mostly adopted by the firms and or by countries. Then what motivates those countries to adopt AI? Then we look at different industries that are impacted by the adoption of AI. So when we talk about AI, AI is buzzword. So when we talk about AI, it's any technology that increases human performance or that replaces human in executing some of the everyday tasks. So when we talk about AI in this paper, that's what we meant. So we use a systematic literature review by Webster and Watson. It is one of the most literatures that is used nowadays. It mostly identifies relevant literatures in certain fields. Then it will identify some possible gaps with the aim of developing new theories and new research proposals. So these are my steps. We have to define a topic. Then we have to look at some research questions by looking at what is a trend and what is around the trend about AI mostly and economic of AI. So we identify some keywords. Then we look at the search terms as we doing the systematic literature review. We have to identify which databases to look at those articles. There are some databases where mostly the technical journals are found. We have some set of criteria. Then you have to collect the articles, trying to find the best one that answers our research questions. So we use this kind of, we use a manual search on the databases, and we use these search terms. We chose to check on three most known databases, Scopus, Web of Science, and Science Direct, of the reason that these are for mostly the AI area, AI articles are found in these databases. These are our main inclusion criteria, because we had to look at so many articles to find, to see if we can answer our research questions. So we had to set criteria to be able to find very good articles. We had articles that were published between 2000 and 2021. So we gave ourselves a very big gap of 20 years. We tried to find articles written in French and English. Then we also tried to find good articles from journals and conference proceedings and so on. Then mostly we have to find articles that are domain of automation and artificial intelligence, then economics. So mostly using our search combinations and in our three databases, we were able to find 627 articles, but because these are very, very many articles, we had to shrink them down. We put our selection criteria. We are able to find 30 articles, very good articles that were answering our research questions. This is one of our result analysis from the articles. We found out that the articles were from 4 years back, from 2018. We couldn't find good articles according to our set of criteria before 2018. And we found out the most articles were written in 2020. Also, one of just the analysis were that the number of articles by country, or the target countries of those articles, we found that more than 60% of the articles were talking about countries in emerging countries. Countries like India had, for example, 4 articles about the motives of AI adoption. We had China, which had 3 articles, and Philippines and South Africa. We had more emerging countries like Hungary, Brazil, ASEAN countries. It was very interesting because we were thinking that most articles will be maybe from Japan or Europe, but we found that articles are from emerging countries. And we also had to check on the technologies that were adopted in these articles. Combination, mostly they were combined with AI. We found that we had like combinations like automation, robots, AI and drones, AI and big data, AI and blockchain, and so on. We were able to identify the motives, the motivation or the reasons why these firms or countries are adopting AI in their businesses. We were able to categorize and identify 11 motives, and these are and sub-motives. The catching up. Most countries, as I said, we found out that most of the emerging countries are the ones adopting AI. So one of the motives why they want to adopt AI was to catch up. For example, China was trying to catch up countries like Japan and so on. And the second one was the pressure to change. As you know, mostly in firms, there were a lot of pressure to change, to use technology in their businesses and so on. We had also motives like positioning countries or firms as a leader in that technology, in AI. We had competition. There was a lot of competition. So they want to adopt AI in their business because there's a lot of competition. There's productivity, increasing productivity or attain productivity growth. was one of the motives that were discussed in those articles. Maybe cost reduction or the country plans. Most of these countries, they want to align the country goals and objectives by adopting AI and so on. So we also try to look at the industries where AI is mostly adopted. And in these 30 articles, so we were able to find mostly SMEs and startups are so much adopting AI in their businesses. Industry like beverage and wine, oil and gas drilling, automotive industry, mostly the autonomous vehicles and so on. Those are the main industries that AI adoption is mostly impacted. Finally, we were able to, in discussion and conclusion, to have to come up with the discussion conclusion. So we found out that mostly firms and countries are the ones mostly adopting AI. We wanted to maybe find any article where would find maybe a case of individuals adopting AI, but we couldn't find, but hopefully but there. And we had Scopus and Web of Science and Science that were having a lot of articles talking about AI adoption, and we were able to find 627 papers with our predefined search terms. Then we applied some selection criteria. We had 63 papers. We had to read all these 63 papers to find very good papers that answers our research questions. We got 30 articles that we use in our research. We were able to identify 11 motivations or reasons why AI is adopted. Finally, we also had to investigate. We were able to find that with the AI adoption, countries were able to increase their performances, to reduce their cost, to increase their sales, and also competitiveness, and so on. Furthermore, we were thinking on further researches, further studies, because those articles, they mentioned a lot of further studies. And mostly, as we had in this research, we found out that emerging countries are the ones adopting AI so much. And mostly because we've also found that only the last 4 years, most research on AI adoption in the last 4 years, we were expecting to find more challenges by these emerging markets and emerging countries. We also trying to propose further studies or research on the challenges of AI and more economic factors in those countries. Also, we trying to propose to a kind of performance measure of AI adoption for future studies. Okay, these are some of the references, and thank you. If there's some questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rene. Right, we have time for questions. Anyone would like to start? Maurizio? Hello, Maurizio, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I have a question about the methodology. In analyzing the content, for example, to understand what were the most deployed reasons for adoption, did you proceed by manual inspection? I mean, just reading the papers, or did you use some text mining technique?
Okay, I'll come for the methodology. So we use a systematic literature review by Webster and Watson. Mostly what we do is to, once you have a topic, you try to find what other researchers are talking about within that topic. So our topic was, we are trying to find why countries or firms adopt AI. and we're trying to find if there is any economic benefits from those countries. So we try to find what other researchers are writing about it, because there was no one who used a systematic literature review in this area. We try to find mostly other researchers and professors trying to do research on that. But we try to find the gaps, or we try to find if there's any new proposal about that. So this is one of the most used systematic literature review by Western. What I don't know if I understand your answer, your question clearly.
Not really. I was wondering whether, okay, you extracted those papers by performing a bibliographic search using okay, Scopus and so on. Okay,
so
you identified a set of papers by using some keywords. Okay.
Yeah, some keywords. Yes.
Then of course
you just have your research questions, but you set your keywords, because maybe some people might use your keywords to try to answer some different papers. So, or they can do the same. You make sure that if anyone uses the same keywords with the same search terms in those databases, will have exactly the same result by you. So you have to explain clearly how you did your systematic literature review.
That's clear. Okay, that's clear to me. Okay, that's a Prisma method, quite straightforward. Okay, then you got, say, 30 papers. I don't know at the end of your selection criteria. Then you got to go deeper into the papers and see what they actually say. Okay, and for example, identify say which method they use, or in your case, I guess you try to identify the reasons for artificial intelligence adoption and so on. Okay, so you got to go deeper into the papers. And at this stage, you can proceed either by a manual approach, so reading the papers. Okay, you read the papers and then you try to build a taxonomy, some sort of classification of the papers you read. You can, as a side approach, you can also proceed in an automatic fashion. So apply some text mining technique. For example, to identify the most frequent keywords, to identify, collected all the papers by topics. So, for example, those dealing with some sort of economic analysis, or some others dealing with artificial intelligence perception by the general public, and so on. My question is, did you proceed just by manual inspection? I mean, reading the papers, which of course is a meritory action, or did you apply some semi-automatic or automatic text mining technique?
No. I did manual search.
Okay. Good.
Manual search with defined keywords in predefined databases.
Okay.
Then with those keywords, I got 627 articles. Then with the selection criteria, I had 63 articles. Then I had to read each and every one to try to find if it is answering my research questions.
Okay, thanks.
You have to grade them with level 1, level 2, level 3. Like, yes, it's a manual search. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Now, Victor, so I'm wondering. So, do you expect to get better results when we do text mining on this one?
You can you can expect something that is more objective in building. Collecting your papers around subtopics. Okay, maybe probably less subjective than what you do manually. Okay, that's what. Okay. Now, for example, I saw that all the reasons for adoption. Maybe an automatic approach would be able to gather them around a smaller set of topics.
Mhm.
statement.
Okay. Mhm.
That's what I can
Mhm.
expect.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. Maybe for my next paper, I can use that. Because I'm using a systematic literature review for the next paper, so I might maybe use that and see.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good idea, Maurice. Yeah, okay, very good.
Next, who has a question? Let me check the our attendees. Sometimes we raise our hand, sometimes we just step in. So Rene, I've got a very quick one. If you go to your slide on the analysis of results, that one of the early ones, I was
Somewhere here.
next. So next one, the analysis of results, which you
one?
refer to countries. No, to countries. Sorry,
Okay,
one of the early results.
Okay. This one, yes. Yes.
That's the one, yeah. So again, it looks like again here India seems to have a large number of activities. Number of articles. It seems to me that again there is here a consideration of Europe, but also European countries like France and Estonia and Greece. Why is that?
So, for example, one paper about France was that they were using. France is a leader in winery, wine production, wine production. So that paper was that they're using AI in the wine industry, mostly about monitoring wine temperature and so on. So it was very interesting. So they wanted to keep that was the paper about France, how they want to adopt AI in the wine industry, wine production, and wine, how they keep wine, something like that. So they in Estonia, they were using AI in the government. Like mostly the paper was about the government, how they use in their governance. It's about the government and the public sector, how they use AI and so on. So they wanted so some of the papers they were talking about. There are some countries in Europe, but there's like just individual one. It was one paper about France and one paper about Estonia.
Okay, that's fair enough. But I will assume again, my understanding is that because you have Europe out there, it means that there was a paper talking about Europe in general and not a specific country, or what?
No, there's just one paper about G7. It was about Germany and a lot of countries. There's talking about Japan and how Japanese are adopting AI, and Germany. It was about G7 countries.
Okay.
And not just some individual countries in Europe. We had Greece. We had one country in Greece. We had one paper in Greece, one paper in Germany, and there's one paper in Europe. I don't remember very well. I had to go back and check. But the one in Estonia was about public services, how they can use AI in public services.
Okay.
I know Estonia is the number one in those.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if we have no more questions, let's thank Rene for his presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And our next speaker is Somaya, who has managed to sort out her technical issues. Welcome back, Somaya. What is?
We need to.
Can you hear me?
Recording.
We can hear you.
Yes, but just a minute, please. You need to stop the